Diary, it's the end of April 2021, and in front of you you're looking at two technological miracles. We'll start off by looking at the hard drive on the right, which is of course indexed in my little catalogue as D06, and as a quick reference it's got 20M written on it, and it's 20M because it's 20 megabytes in size. Not 20 gigabytes, and certainly not 20 terabytes. And you'll see that it's nicely wrapped up in a hermetically sealed container, which has got some nice extra rubber bands on it to make sure it really is airtight. And one of the reasons is that that drive is about 40 years old. And this is just a little introductory video to say that during the course of the next few months, time permitting, and I think that's going to be the case, I shall be using the device on the left to emulate the device on the right. So the device on the left is the David Gesswein MFM hard disk emulator. When I say MFM, I mean the Seagate ST506 interface. Now this is a disk interface that was around, or I guess first used in large numbers by the IBM PC, so that's 1981, but I used it in computers before that date, so in the late 70s. So Seagate came up with this original hard drive interface, and it was used very successfully on pre-IBM PC generation computers, of which I'm still a great fan and owner of. So this is a solid state drive emulation card. To my knowledge, there are only two designs in the world, and the second design is not known to me. I've seen it in an advertisement, and this is the Dave, again, to give David his full credit, it's David Gesswein, Gesswein, and he's ingeniously come up with a converter card which has on the back of it a small Linux computer. I wish you'd used the Raspberry Pi series of computers, but at the time it was a bit of a toss-up as to which computer to use, and he chose the BeagleBone Black computer. So this is a BeagleBone Black computer. Again, this is an overview article, but just to get you interested, it's running Debian operating system, an obsolete version of Debian. And that meshes with the C code that he's written to drive these GPIO pins on either side here to interface with the hardware card here. So I've been making lots of preparation. So you can see here I've been trying to remember what the jumpers do, and I've been looking at my S100 cards and trying to figure out what interfaces need to go to what interfaces on the card here, and what jumpers I need to select in order for this all to work. The good news is that I did do a lot of this in 2016, but I've been a bit busy for the last 4 years. But now that business is over, I'm back to one of my passions, and that's this vintage computing, documentation and conversion. When you're dealing with 40-year-old plus computers, one of the most important things is that anything that moves is liable to break down and not work so well. So this is a 3600 RPM spinning drive, and it's 40 plus years old. So it's maybe just late 30s, it's certainly more than 35 years old. So it was last tested in about 2014. It was still working. We'll see in a few days whether it's still actually working. But the challenge with the vintage computer scene, I would say, is for me to use solid state media, because disk media is one of those things that really does suffer. You can, if you have enough electronics knowledge, components and luck, find substitutes for some of the hardware. So if individual hardware cards break down, but finding drives that actually work with this interface is nigh impossible these days. So our saviour is here on the left. This is the old guy on the right. There'll be lots of videos to explain what I'm doing. These are the old MFM, or I should say Seagate ST506 cables, and the interface I'm going to be using to talk to my old computers is, of course, an RS-232 interface, which I'm going to come out and translate into a USB interface and use the infamous PuTTY program to talk to this down a serial cable. So that's it really. You've seen the emulator card on the left, the original card on the right. I'll be using Cromemco computers to show all of this working. I'm doing some detailed planning of the card and the layout of the disk, the solid state disk emulation that I will be making, what partitions will go where. More to come. Thanks for watching, Diary.